Right, said Fred. Now I'm seated. I think I'm going to plug my phone as charge, actually. Now, this is, before we go any further, this is this has just happened, okay? And this is a true story, so make yourself comfy. Right, so before we go any further, this happened just the other day. This is the first customer I've had since I've moved to London. It's the first one I've had who's not paid me. First ever. So I am a bit pissed about it, but at the same time, I'm also not. It's weird. I'm pissed off about it, but I'm also not fussed about it, if that makes any sense, because it was a world of pain I didn't want to get into anyway. So before we go any further, I start going into it. Stop the video here. Make a cup of tea, because there's a bit of explaining to do. Make a cup of tea, come back, and then we'll get started. Okay, so I've been doing some maintenance work for an estate agent. I'm not going to say who it is, not going to say where they are. I've been doing some maintenance work for an agent, okay? And they rung me up. I've got to be a bit careful how I word this. They rung me up, and basically they said, we've got an induction hob. There is like a induction hob which needs to be fitted into a kitchen. So I thought, sounds like a simple job, doesn't, it's sort of, it's an hour's work, in and out, nice and quick. So I said, okay, fine. I was going to try and get there on the Friday afternoon. I ended up being too busy, so I said, well, I'll do it on the Saturday. They said, fine. Now, I got to this place at 8:30 in the morning, okay? If I've got the... in fact, what I'll do, I will put the text conversation I had with this agent on the screen here, okay? So I'm not making any of this up. I've got the text here to prove it and the emails, all right? So I'll just explain this as it happened. So anyway, I was going to try and get there on the Friday afternoon, and my diary just didn't allow it. So I said, look, can I get there on the Saturday? Said fine. Bloody Nora. So anyway, I got there at 8:30 on the Saturday morning. Now, we're not going to take into account the fact that it took me, 3/4 of an hour to drive to this person's property. We won't take that into account. So that's actually an hour and a half of driving, both ways. But just ignoring that, okay? I got to this property, and you guys will know what I mean. I'm actually doing this more for new people coming in, because this is just good shit to learn. When I got to the property and I pulled up outside, you just get a vibe that you don't want to be doing this. I don't know why. I don't know what causes it. You just get this vibe that you should just keep driving, And anyway, knocked on the door, and I walked in, and they didn't actually tell me the full details until I got there, which was another alarm bell which went off. Why they didn't just explain it over the phone. Because like when you walk into a property, you do electrically assess everything. It's what you do. But if you're a spark, you'll know what I mean. It's just what you do. When you walk into a property, you scope it out electrically. Where are the light switches? Is there trunking? Is there cabling exposed? You just look for all of this stuff. And anyway, I saw this. This was the first thing. I just walked into the kitchen, and this was what I saw. This picture just here, and it was 2 light switches, and you could see that they weren't machine screws. They were wood screws holding the light switches on. And as soon as I saw that, it just alarm bells just start ringing, because you're just looking thinking, what the fuck, really? When you see light switches which are held on with wood screws, you just know that the rest of the installation was just, no one gave a fuck. You can just tell. Anyway, I didn't mention it to the client. I kept looking around, and anyway, he said, look, we've got to connect this induction hob. I said fine, okay, and there was a bit of 6mm there, which was actually a little bit skinny. It should probably have been 10mm, but anyway, we won't get into that. There was a bit of 6mm there. So I went to the fuse board, and then I saw this. And basically, this was just where it rapidly started to go downhill from this moment. You know, they've just fitted this fuse board, and it was an Italian company by all accounts. They'd come over here, and it transpired, from what I gather, he couldn't get them back because they'd all gone back to Italy. So, I mean, there's no guarantee, there's no quality of workmanship. You know, they've come here, they've done a job, and they've just fucked off back on a plane to Italy, and they've just left this guy. I'm not going to get into whose faults, you know. I mean, to be fair, he should have known better, okay? It's as simple as that. I mean, you hire an Italian company and you're not knowing how long they're going to be here. I mean, you just don't do it, you know? So this is the picture I saw, and you know, as soon as you know, straight from the word go, I mean, you can see there's no glands, no grommets. I mean, there's fuck all. And I just thought, you know, fuck, what have I just walked into, you know? And so anyway, I turned off the breaker for the hob, and I went over to the hob, and I had to. The wire was just a piece of cut twin and earth. There was no block on it or anything. So I turned off the breaker, went back into the kitchen, and I had my little magic wand, you know, that the Q-Stick Duo that I've got, and it was still live. I just thought, fuck, do you know what? I'm not getting involved in this. This is just, there's just too much shit here that's been done that I don't want to have to get involved with. So I said to the client, I said, look, this just is a bit of a shit show here. I can't connect this hob. I said, do you have the contact details for the last electrician? Because they've only just done it. We're talking literally days before I'd got there, or weeks, I think. It wasn't long. And he said, no, I can't get hold of them because they've all gone back to Italy. So I was like, right, okay. And he said, but an electrician's been in the last sort of 2 weeks, I think it was, or before the kitchen was fitted, and they put an EICR on it. They put an EICR certificate on it. I'm not sure how an electrician managed to put an EICR on this fuse board. I have no idea. I did see the certificate, but to be fair, I can't actually remember who the company was. I don't know. But anyway, ignoring that, I said to this customer, look, I can't connect this hob. It's a shower of shit. You've got to get this sorted. You can't leave it like this. It's just dangerous. Anyway, it transpires I was there for about 2 hours, and I went through the customer. I didn't go into great depths of detail because the more you keep digging, the more shit you find that you keep digging up, you know. So I went through the basics of what I could see. So there were no glands in the fuse board. One of the breakers has been over tightened. On the right hand side, that rail, the RCD and those breakers there on the right hand side, they were, even after you turn the RCD off, that bank was still live. So there was a backfeed somewhere from, you know, I'm guessing what's happened is on the ring, they've put one leg of the ring in one side of the MCBs and then one leg on the other side. So you turn it on, it just energizes both sides. I'm guessing that's what's happened. Now, obviously, you know, but it was in such a poor state, I issued a danger notice. You can go onto the IC and you can issue a danger notice. You have a duty, once you've seen something, you know, you've got to make it official that you've seen it, and you've told the client that, look, this is a shit show, it's got to be sorted. And just to keep it official, that if anything does, you know, if that house burns down, I can say, well, look, I've issued a danger notice, I told them that it wasn't right, sorry, you know, I've made it absolutely clear, you know, in writing that it isn't correct. And we left it that he was going to get in touch with the guy who put an EICR on this. And I said, fine, fair enough, you know, contact me next week. So I hopped in my van at 10, it was just gone 10:30, so I'd been there for 2 hours, okay? And I hopped in, I didn't think anything of it, hopped in my van, drove away. And the following morning, I submitted an invoice to him. And it was this invoice just here, okay? I broke it down. I was quite clear in the invoice: time on site, time off site. You know, you allocate the time you were there. So I'm not including travelling time or anything. My hour and a half for travelling, we're not including that. This is just on site and off site times, okay? And this is this is what the chap emailed me back. He said, "Dear Tom, please call me tomorrow regarding both the invoice and the danger notice. I've got the electrician who did the work coming tomorrow, and I will revert thereafter. For the time being, I'm going to dismiss this invoice for now, given that no work was actually completed." Right, okay. So we'll ignore the fact that I just spent 2 hours on site, okay. Now this really, that that properly pissed me off. That really, really pissed me off. Because it's just assumed that you can just waste 2 hours of your time. In fact, it's more than that. It's actually about 3.5. By the time you include your time getting there, you know, it's like 3.5 hours of my time, which he just thinks it's okay to write off. So that, it really pissed me off. So this was the email that I sent back. I am disappointed that you feel this invoice can just be dismissed. Speaking not only for myself, but also for fellow contractors, I thought that was a good one to put in there, who genuinely care about what they do, I think it's not fair to call a contractor to a property which requires a number of resources, including fuel, my time of almost 2 hours on site, use of my vehicle, and most importantly, our knowledge and expertise. That's the bit everybody seems to forget, that your knowledge and expertise is what they're paying for. It's not the work that you carry out, it's your knowledge that they're paying for. But anyway, and then dispute the invoice. With all due respect, I find this very insulting and disrespectful of the service we as trusted contractors deliver. Yeah. As a result, I've decided to... I have to point out at this point, because they were an estate agent, I was doing work, you know, they weren't feeding me loads of work. It was like one job a month. You know, I think they had other contractors on the books. They had a job which I was booked in to go and do. And this pissed me off so much that I just don't want to work for them anymore, because once somebody does that to you, why should you continue working for them, you know? So anyway, I had this job booked in, and I had the keys for it, which I had to go and do it on Monday, and as it transpires, I haven't done it. And I carried on writing. As a result, I've decided to no longer carry out the job that I've been requested to do at yada yada yada, and I'll drop the keys back for that property today at the office. I would kindly like to ask you to please disregard this invoice and consult an alternative contractor to carry out that job, as I will no longer be able to work with yourself or moving forwards. I would politely ask you to refrain from contacting me for further information or assistance, as I will be unavailable. I thought that was the most polite way of telling them to go and do one. I couldn't think of a politer way of actually trying to word it. I did put at the end, you know, I hope you managed to get your electric sorted, contact the NIC, yada yada yada. So I don't know, I think it was just a question of either he wasn't expecting me to invoice him, which I don't really understand how that works. When you spend 2 hours at someone's property, that never goes unpaid. So I don't really know, I don't know. What I will do in future is any call outs of any description, I will email them first to say my hourly rate is £75 an hour, you know, and it's that rate for as long as I'm there. Which is probably what I'll do in the future. Yeah, it's a shame because I've now lost an agent, but again, it's just one of those things that you know, once bitten, twice shy. What, you know, once an agent has said that they're not going to pay you for something, that's basically the beginning of the end. You know, you just don't want to keep working for them. So, all right, you know, you've now lost an estate agent, but personally, I'd rather have that than you keep working for them. And you're always on the back foot then, because they've always got this hold over you, that like they've got this power that if we don't agree with that, we're not going to pay it, and that's not how it should work. So that's where we're at. I just thought I'd share that with you guys. That's the first invoice I've ever had which I've actually just turned around and said, you know what, don't pay it, but just don't contact me and you get somebody else in future. I think the bottom line is they did that kitchen on the cheap. They got a beautiful kitchen. I'm not questioning that. They got an absolutely stunning kitchen, but the problem was, you know, I think my hunch is they'd spent all of their budget on the kitchen. They hadn't actually allocated a proper budget to actually have it correctly installed. I know for that kitchen the electrician charged £1,000 to do all of the electrics, which, including doing the fuse board, I thought was incredibly cheap. So to be fair, I'm not surprised they've had issues, you know. Okay, I lost a morning's pay, but I've not got the hassle of having to go and sort that shit out now. So in a way, I'm quite glad. You know, if somebody else wants to do it, rock on. I don't want to get involved. So there you go. It does happen occasionally. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Leave your comments and thoughts below. In fact, it'd be good to know if you guys have ever been bitten or anything like that, just through... because I wasn't actually expecting... I wasn't expecting him to not pay, to be honest. I was really surprised when he said he wasn't going to pay it. But I think a lot of customers get sucked into this thing, and they expect you to do physical work, and it doesn't always work like that, because they, you know, it's your knowledge and your training that they're paying for. It's not work carried out. You know, that's the whole point, that you spend, you know, 4 or 5 years in a college training. You know, it's a price to pay. So yeah, leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you on the next video.